norms and stereotypes to making sure that the butts are wet. Boy, girl, mom and dad want grown-up time, you're going mad. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.
Yeah, let's cut that.
That's beautiful.
Welcome to Boy, Girl, Mom, and Dad, episode 8.
Welcome. We're loud in here today.
We loud.
I like it.
Okay, so today we are talking about postpartum life. So mental and physical, and basically how you can be a support system for the person who is going through postpartum.
Yeah.
Whether that's your wife or your friend, whatnot, just how to be a better support system.
Yeah, I think it's a little of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, before we get into it, we got to get into the tip for this week. So the tip this week is about bed sheets, and it's not if they're clean or not. We all prefer clean sheets.
There's like 6 topics this could be. I'm so excited to hear which one it is.
So the question is do you like a nice tight bed or the sheets all loose?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm about to say my opinion. Okay. Well, do you want to go first?
Well, I'm trying to clarify. So are you talking about the foot of the bed when it's tucked under as well? And the sides, or just the sides?
I guess I'm more so talking about the foot of the bed.
Okay.
Because for me, I'll tuck the sides in when I'm making the bed, but if I'm sleeping, I don't really care about keeping the sides in. But I do like the foot of the bed to have the sheets tucked in. I don't want my foot touching the comforter.
Okay.
I do use a top sheet. I know there's some thing about how millennials don't use top sheets. I definitely still use a top sheet. We do.
Never seen that. But we
I've
do.
seen it a couple times where people just use the comforter. I'm like, no, we use a top sheet. But yeah, I am team tight bed. I actually like when I go to a hotel and I get in and it's so tight that I can flex my foot back and it stretches. It gives me a nice calf stretch.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
That's my idea of a horrible night's sleep.
Well, at the bare minimum, it just needs to be touched in. I don't want my foot loosey-goosey unless I put my leg outside of the bed sheet.
Loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
If the sheet is tucked in, you're constricting your leg movement. And you're creating a hot box situation at the bottom of the bed. And nobody wants to be hot when they sleep. They want to be cold enough to where it's comfortable to be under the covers. Mm-hmm. You know? That's why everybody should sleep when it's 58 degrees.
We don't even get to sleep at 58 degrees.
If
we don't
open
have
the
central
window, 60, 58. That's what it's been the last few nights. And guess what? You've had good sleep, haven't you?
I have, but we also we don't have central AC, so it's a little window unit that we are very thankful for. But yeah, your team loose sheets at the bottom, I find that disgusting.
I think it's fine to tuck them in when you make the bed, but I think when you're sleeping in the bed, you get to choose whether you want your feet to be under the covers or out of the covers if it's untucked. If it's tucked in, you have one option. It's torture.
Yeah, and I think you just move a lot with the sheets and you pull them certain ways, and so...
Very active.
Well, I tested this theory last week when you were gone all week. And I changed the sheets on the bed, and that first night, the sheets were in the same spot the next day. So it's not me, because Nick thinks that I pull them all to my side, which is just not the case. But yeah,
you do.
No.
When you roll over, you do not hold the sheet while you're rolling over so that it stays in the same spot. You take the sheet with you.
Mm. And all that to say, Nick is team loose foot sheet, which is gross, and
let's just call it team freedom.
Team tight.
Team free legs.
But I will say we have a California King, and we love it. Our mattress is tufted needle, and then our favorite bedding is by Parachute. Love.
You can't use it as a parachute, to clarify?
Maybe you could.
Well, you shouldn't try, but it's called Parachute.
Yeah. I'll link all that for you below.
It's clear who won that TIFF, so very excited to see the comments.
And I know how you liked how I have coordinated TIFFs in the past coming weeks, and so I made this week's TIFF because I felt like postpartum you spend a lot of time in bed, and so that's how it coordinates today.
Okay, love that.
So into today's topic, postpartum and everything. The whole reason I wanted to have this discussion with you is not just because I think it's an important topic and not necessarily discussed enough, but I think that you have come to understand it in the way that I'm not sure other partners have. Sure, you may not have gotten a couple things at the beginning, but at some point it just clicked for you. And so I feel like you have good insight.
Yes, I would say I obviously cannot empathize, but I do feel like I understand as well as I can from a sympathetic perspective.
Yeah, and have been able to have good conversations with other like female friends. And this is like not necessarily even postpartum, just like body discussions with some of our female friends about just like how we feel in our bodies, because it's not. I think it's hard to sometimes understand it because you're like, you look great. Like, I like how you look, but it's like a mental thing. And so beginning to understand and like provide support for that is a different ballgame.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy you said that. It does feel, it feels like I kind of understand.
Do you know what made it click for you? Or was it just like enough information that finally you piece it all together? Because I can't think of a time where I was like, oh, this is what helped you specifically.
I think we need to define what we're saying first before we ask that question. And I don't know of a specific time. I think verbal processing was the answer. Like, you probably felt like you were banging your head against the wall telling me so many times how you felt. It didn't make sense. But I think one of those conversations made a little bit more sense than the last few.
Yeah. I mean, we've had lots of discussions like that within our marriage that it's like it felt like nothing changed. And then finally it was like, oh, maybe somebody said something slightly different. And you're like, oh, that's what that means? Like, I totally get it now. Mm-hmm. But again, it's kind of frustrating in the sense that I don't know what exactly helps. So I can't like give it to another person. But I think that, you know, just having this will hopefully help. And hopefully you can send it to somebody you'd hope to understand, or you can listen and learn for yourself.
Yeah.
So a question I've been asked is a lot, actually, is like, when did you start to feel like yourself after having kids, after the postpartum period? And just so you know, like, postpartum is currently defined as like the first, I think it's 6 weeks after birth or whatever. Is that what it's also called like the fourth trimester. So that period of time is like the afterbirth, all that stuff. And so I say that because, you know, I think there's this maybe a stigma that that's when you should start to feel better, like, or not better, but like yourself. And that's actually just not the case for a lot of people, but they think that they're supposed to feel normal or back to yourself. And first of all,
so hold on, let me pause you. So
I was about to be on a roll.
I know, I'm sorry. It was probably a bad place to pause you. But when you're saying feel like yourself, you're not talking about like that's the time in which you should look like prior to pregnancy. It's not a physical thing. It's a feel like the person you were prior, like feel like you're still you kind of thing.
I think it is more of a mental discussion, but I think there are a lot of physical components that can add to it.
I'm just clarifying, you're not only talking about the physical.
Correct. And so first of all, like after you've given birth, I've said this before, but my sister said this to me, you know, you're a different person. You gave birth and you also like to a human, but then you're also giving birth to yourself. You're a new person. You can't go back to what you were. You can't. And so I think especially as like a first time mom, you don't realize that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But then on top of it, if we're asking the question that I've been or answering the question that I've been asked of like, when did you start to feel like what you felt like pre-pregnancy? I would say that was just recently for me, maybe about a year and a half. The twins are 19 months now, so 18 months is a year and a half, maybe a little bit before it.
Can you clarify what you mean by maybe it's just me that's not understanding, but like you're saying feel like yourself. What do you mean by that?
Mentally and physically. Like, I don't know, there's a kind of a fog that's there and like everything is going on. You're just trying to keep up. You're trying to stay afloat. And I feel like I'm just now getting into that season where I'm not like, my hormones aren't as out of whack and like so maybe like back to a sense of normalcy, but not necessarily back to exactly who you were prior to having the baby. Yeah, it's hard to describe, so I'm sorry I'm not getting it across. It's fine. You know, a big part of that is I did have twins, and so like that takes longer theoretically because it's not just one child, it's two, and so your body is doing twice the work. It expands to a bigger size typically. Yeah. And then in like caring for them, you're caring for more than one, so you're having to do more. Also, like, I wasn't cleared to work out. And I say that because, you know, working out is something that people say, like, can help your mental health and all of this. But I wasn't cleared to really do a workout until 6 months postpartum. I had, or I still do, suffer from diastasis recti or DRA or whatever you want to call it, where it means your abs have split. And so there's what's called coning, where like I remember like laying in bed and I would laugh and it was like the Loch Ness monster was shooting out of my stomach, and it's because my abs are separated. So like
Just didn't prepare
when
me
I
for
laugh
this
it's
at
like
all.
"Ah," and I also remember like you making me laugh in the hospital like post C-section. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny, but that hurts. All that to say, like, that's a whole nother thing too, because, you know, they say like the 6-week appointment at C-section, it's 8-week, like, you know, that's when you're cleared to work out. But like, no, I was like taking walks. Like that was at 8 weeks, it was just like, I was just now able to kind of like, I think, lift them up. Like I wasn't carrying anything just because of the C-section and all the stuff that goes with that. So that was a hard thing too, because that exercise does help your mental health, and like a walk helps, but you know, I love yoga and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really able to do that. So I wasn't able to do some of the things that made me feel normal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But other things that I did just for reference that I do think helped was I did physical therapy. I did that pre-pregnancy and post-pregnancy. And that helped a lot just to have somewhere to go. They did other things besides like movements. So I had a lot of back pain. I had like knots in my stomach, you know, that they would like massage out for me and check on things. Mine was specifically for women, and I think that's really important. It's called Origin. They do virtual other places too besides LA, and they have a couple other physical locations, but I really recommend them because they know about women and like postpartum and all that, so that's their specialty. Whereas a regular physical therapist would probably be good for other things, like you want a specialty here. So I would recommend physical therapy, especially if you had a C-section, because that is a major surgery, and it's the only major surgery that isn't recommended to have like physical therapy like right off of the bat.
Yeah.
And you can get a script from your OB, and you know, I was able to have it covered by insurance. That helped a lot with my diastasis recti. I have an online program that I did too that I thought helped, which is another, I can actually go into that, because like I got stretches from my PT, but at the time it was 6 months postpartum. Like that's when I stopped. And so I was just in the newborn phase. Plus my sister got married 6 months postpartum from me postpartum. And so that was just a lot going on. And so like, I really didn't have like the energy or capacity to do all that. And so it could have been a little bit of that, but also I did a at-home workout that I thought really helped with my DR.
I would also say that you prioritized trying to get back into getting your own stuff done more than you did your own physical fitness. So not to say that you were ready to go back and do full workouts or anything, to your point, but like, I don't think you allowed yourself. I mean, I remember us getting into many arguments because I was, not that I was pressuring you to work out, but just like you had expressed to me that you wanted to.
Yeah.
And your free time, all of it was taken up, not really by sleep or rest, mostly by like, I feel so behind on my blog or whatever else I'm working on. Like I have to do all these professional things. And I was trying to push you to work out.
And to, be for my mental health, not again.
For no.
If you take that bit and make it to where he's being
Yeah.
mean, that's not it at all.
Get back in the gym. No, it wasn't that.
It wasn't that at all. But I think
It was honestly just like I could tell that mental piece that was something that you missed about yourself because you were very committed to physical
and it's like,
activity
okay,
prior.
I could go work out, but then I'm like, to your point, behind on these other things. And, you know, I
Right.
do regret like not doing stuff for myself, but like I had a client who pressured me essentially to come back. And they kept asking me like when I was coming back. So I felt like I had to, and that's just not the case. So I wish I wouldn't have done that. But that was, I started working again for them at like right after 2 months postpartum, which
you did not have to. But
I didn't have to, and I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for another day. But just to throw that out there.
So I think that there's a tiny piece of advice in there for previous you, from you. Right?
Well, I think...
Not about the work. I'm talking about the physical activity piece. Like, I'll ask a different question. Do you wish you would have prioritized even a little walk or something in conjunction with getting back to your work?
And my OB told me to do that, and I didn't listen. She was like, I need you to get... And one, she was like, get exercise, like take a walk.
Yeah.
Get Nick to watch the kids, take a walk. And also... I need you to do something for an hour a day that's just for you, that's not exercising, that's not a shower, that's not work. And she told me to do it, and that was so hard for me to do.
Yep. I think a lot of the tiny arguments I'm referencing are trying to take that advice and have you do it.
Yeah. But I couldn't get, when you can't get there in your mind for something, like, I don't think I could have gotten there at that
I
point.
understand why you did. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm saying we're past it now.
Yeah.
Your advice to previous you or future you,
Yeah.
if there are more
make
kids,
the time, because it's the same way I feel about burnout. Like if you don't make the time for it, your body will make the time for it. So
yeah.
yes. Another thing that I do now is yoga and Pilates. I love yoga. Pilates is fine. I'm trying to be a Pilates girly, just because it's a good way to work other muscles and stuff and good for core. You have to be careful. I wish there was a like postpartum one, but like I don't do crunches, so that's a no-no with my DRA and what?
Sorry, there's just an advice nugget in there as well. So just tell me if I'm wrong. Be honest with your instructors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they know typically should at least, and typically do know how to modify for you or suggest modifications based on your recovery or what stage you're in, if you're pregnant, whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. And then, of course, acupuncture and chiropractic work I do a lot as well. So those are just things that I think helped me postpartum kind of get my mojo back, if you will. New studies have come out to say that, your body doesn't actually heal until like up to 18 months postpartum. So, actually I got into, not a fight, somebody commented on my Instagram post the other day and was like, what do you mean postpartum? That's just like the first 6 weeks unless something's changed. And I didn't say anything, but my sister did. I'm not going to tell you which post is on. You can go find it for yourself. But my sister took care of me. Technically, in my opinion, we're always postpartum. Like, it's post having the baby. And there are things after having a baby that will affect you for the rest of your life. Good and not so good. So postpartum, like I said, new studies have come out that say that it's almost like up to 18 months for your body to fully heal. And then, which would track with what I'm saying, which is like the 1.5 year mark.
Yep.
And then up to 2 years to feel like yourself, which again, that tracks with what I'm saying. So it makes me feel a little
Do you feel
not as crazy? I don't know.
back to yourself? Not physically, in general.
Yes, for the most part. That's what I was saying.
But for the most part isn't yes, right? I'm not trying to pressure you to know. I'm just saying, like, it's great that you're getting closer. But, you just said 1.5 years to 2. I'm just asking if you would say
what
you
I'm
fully do.
struggling with right now could be postpartum related and could not be. So
Got it.
I have ulcerative colitis, and when I had a colonoscopy last October, so about a year after having the twins, they found more UC in my colon in a different part, and so I was put on a different drug in addition to the one I was already on, and it caused a lot of like bloating and stuff. And when you have a C-section, you see bloating more, like it affects you more, and
Hot girls have GI problems.
that's a TikTok reference. If people,
It's just
don't
a
know.
fact.
Okay, it's just a fact. IBS. Well, when you have a C-section and you bloat more, it just shows more. I'm probably not describing it well, but that's just like something. So I'm experiencing a lot of bloat and like painful stuff in regard to that, and I think it's partially pregnancy related just because of the C-section, and then partially maybe UC. So I'd say for the most part, mentally I'm there. Physically, I am kind of there, but not really because of that. But I'm a lot better, I would say. And I'll link the study in the show notes just so you can see that. But to kind of help people, I think the next section I wanted to talk about was just things that I would suggest for somebody to do to help somebody who's postpartum. So I'm going to say...
Can you clarify that one more
Yeah,
time,
so these
please?
are things that I would say that Nick did that helped me. So this is a list that you can do to help someone postpartum, or if you are about to be postpartum or postpartum, you can give this list to other people of like how they can help you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say, so one of the things that I've learned, not just from postpartum, support of you, but also just in general, is the like trying to jump in and fix is not always the right thing, right? Enter nail video that we've referenced before.
Wait. Are we jumping in?
No.
Oh.
Stay with me. So
I was like, I have a list.
I would say here are ways that you can support,
okay.
not ways that you should jump in and do. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying
Perfect.
It's not just like, I have a pregnant friend or a pregnant spouse or postpartum, excuse me. These are things I'm going to do. It's these are ways you can show up.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to
Sounds good. Perfect. So the first one
I wouldn't go too fast in your outline. I would never do that.
I was like, we were just skipping, throwing everything to the wind. I worked hard on this.
I know who runs this.
So the first thing I would say is just create space to talk. Like, you can definitely check in on them. Like, talk to them. Like, you don't, like, especially if someone is experiencing, you know, postpartum depression, which, by the way, if we're going by the postpartum mark of 6 weeks, like, sometimes, a lot of the time, it doesn't show up until past that, you know? So it's not just something that is the first 6 weeks to check in on people. So I would create space to have a discussion, create a space to talk, ask them how they're doing, tell them to say how they feel, because, like, keeping those thoughts down in your system is not good.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get them out, talk about them. Like, keeping them down just, you know, makes you feel like you're alone, and you're not.
Promotes isolation, which is like a negative feedback loop, and makes you feel more and more alone, more and more like you're struggling. And you're probably not seeing as many other people that would be able to encourage you as normal, because you're taking care of a human or more new humans in our case. And it just perpetuates that negative cycle. Yeah. So I would also say, and so I agree with that. And for those who are supporting the person who's postpartum, I would say your primary responsibility and job in those moments should be to listen and maybe to read back what you've heard. But the stepping into the advice piece, I did way too early and too often, I think, which again is not unique to postpartum. But we got into fights about that because, like, you felt like you were not able to A, communicate what you were feeling, and B, get me to understand. And that put an extra burden on you when I was trying to be virtuous and trying to help you, but you didn't need help or something to be fixed. You needed to be heard and understood so that you weren't sitting in that place of isolation. Yeah.
And to be fair, I don't remember those fights. I don't remember those.
Oh, good. Because I don't either, but I know that they happened.
Why are you teary?
Because I don't like that I remember that I did that.
Oh, but I don't think about that.
I remember a lot of fights.
There were other fights that we had, like the day that my milk came in, if we're going to talk about how that was crazy, like, that was a bad
When
fight.
I went and picked it up from Ralph's? So I have another piece of advice here.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually for the people who are postpartum.
Okay. Like, so me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your partners may try and help fix things. And remember that they're doing it to help. So if you can, keep yourself from getting frustrated when that happens, and or like if you need to communicate something, or they've created the space like you're giving us advice to talk, like, be upfront and be like, hey, like, this might not make sense. Like, I need you to just hear me here. I don't think there's a solution, and I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, because like I'm not saying it's your fault because you didn't do that I tried to go to solutioning, but in my head, it's more probable that I would have sat and given you that space if I knew that's what you expected. Yeah. So that's just something you can do. Again, you have to. Just like as the postpartum person, if you know you need to be heard, lay that groundwork.
Yeah, I don't know that I knew I needed to be heard at the time. I don't know.
Sure, and I don't know that it's a fair expectation you always will. Yeah. That's not my point. My point is, like, if you're aware of that and you're aware, like, I need somebody to bounce my feelings off of, your partner should be that person for you. Hopefully they are, and tell them what you need.
Yeah, and I think that I put this as number one because this is what allows you to understand. This is what allows you to...
Or at least gets you closer to it.
Yes, exactly. And I think having all of these discussions is what allowed that light bulb to go off for you.
Yeah, and I don't remember when it did. I mean, I feel like we're talking about this nebulous light bulb without defining it. But yeah, it was a result of the way I think about it is there's this like little diamond of, okay, I get a good amount of what you're trying to say, but like all the discussions and arguments that led up to it were like chipping away at everything else outside of it. So it's like, it's not that there was a magic sentence or a magic conversation. Yeah. It's that like I needed to be like ready to hear you, trying to understand from a different perspective, not trying to fix it, like understand the context. Like there was all these things that had to happen. And the way I process this kind of stuff is verbal. And no offense, but you were not always able to or willing to verbally process these things, and kind of sometimes expected me to understand.
Right. And on top of the fact that we're all like dog tired.
Right.
Like in trying to process, sometimes you just don't have the capacity, but it's important. So I would definitely make space for that.
There's also like there's a component in this of like how you communicate. Cause like I do process very, very verbally.
Yes, you do.
Which made me like, I was very frustrated, not with you, but in general. Like I've talked about the problem orb we have that's separate from us, right? I was frustrated in general, aside from you, that like I was giving you so much affirmation, and that was honest affirmation. Yeah. And it felt like you couldn't accept it.
Yeah, if we
which had nothing to do with me, but like that was very frustrating for me.
Well, and if we want to get specific about that, it's like an example that would be like physical, like body stuff, right? Like you would be like, oh, I think you look great. Like I love like how you look because, you know, that's what gave us the twins and all this stuff. And it's hard to have that. I don't know. That was just an example I thought of, which may not have been what you're even talking about. But yeah. No,
it is a little bit. But also like you were not accepting yet of like how you looked.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Physical.
No, I know. But I'm saying like, it's not that you just didn't believe me. It was more like this is something I had to figure out. It's not that you didn't trust what I was saying and didn't believe that I meant it. It's that you didn't think it could be possible. So like you didn't think that you looked good. And anyone, especially the one who usually showers you the compliments, weren't going to change your mind. So it's not that you didn't believe me. It's that like, it didn't make sense to you that somebody would think that about you right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think only in the last like couple months, I was like, okay, I don't think I want a tummy tuck. Like that was something that I wanted.
You haven't said that to me before.
Yeah, I have. I would send you all the images.
I know the first part. You haven't said in the last few months that you thought about not.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen to you. Unless you want it, but I don't want it.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
I just got close to the mic for a smile. So that shows something's not right up here.
No. We are drinking wine today with our...
How did you know? This is the ad?
No, it's not an ad, but we love...
It's kind of an ad.
How? Because I'm a Hall ambassador?
Yeah. Now
Okay.
It's really an ad.
They didn't ask me to do this.
That's why I said it wasn't an ad.
And we purchased this ourselves when we were just in Napa the other weekend. This is the Hall Sauvignon Blanc. Little Monday afternoon treat. You want to cheers?
It's excellent. Yeah. Hall's specialty, this is switching to a wine podcast. Hall's specialty is Napa Valley Cabs, which is not unique by any means, but they are very, very good.
Yeah.
And it's a killer place to visit.
Yes, it's beautiful. They definitely like care about like art and things like that, and so we always stop in whenever.
How many times have we had the kids there?
Oh,
since they were born,
yeah.
Right?
Like we had them there at 2 months old. Yeah.
And they're super accommodating.
Yes.
Like,
would recommend.
Amazing.
Anyway, number 2, provide time to move your body and or rest. So you're so good at this. You're like, let me rearrange my schedule so that you can go get a workout in. You can move your body. And I would say this is just like random, but I guess I feel guilty about this, but we have a nanny who's here like for 3 days a week, part-time, and you're okay with like if I need to take a nap, like using that time. That is my time, you know. That's what I'm saying. Like I think some people be like, well, why are you paying for a nanny if you're not working during that time? You would say that to you. Sure, but I think there are people who exist out there who are like, why would you do that? We don't need a nanny like for you to take a nap. And so the concept of having help to me is help in every aspect of our lives. So in my mind, we did not choose to get a nanny to allow you more time to work. We chose to get a nanny to allow you more time. Yeah. And like how you want to spend that time is up to you. I don't judge you for anything. Like if you need to if I need to nap during a workday, I take a little nap. Like you know, there's no difference in my mind. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I would not be surprised if a lot of moms felt this way, to be honest, not to project it onto them, but like it's probably good, dads and partners, to like make sure that expectation is well understood in your partner that's primarily taking care of the kids. Like the help is not help with childcare. It's people helping you get other parts of your life done. Like it's the same thing as having somebody come over to clean the house, which there's nothing wrong with, somebody to wash the clothes, like sending out your laundry, taking out your dry cleaning. Like there's no expectation when you do those things that you're performing a specific action with the time that you've gotten back, you know? I'm not saying it's a ridiculous thought. I understand why you feel that way, but it's not, in my mind at least, it doesn't make sense to me. But even like, I would say before we had her, it was like, I was like, I think I need to take a nap. And you're like, go take a nap. Especially in those first few months too. We would take turns taking naps sometimes. Nick had 3 months of paternity leave. So he was with me during that time. But also, again, like fast forward to now, like we check each other's calendars, and, you know, we'll alternate days of like working out if it's in the morning, and just like making time for that and allowing time for that. Yeah. I had to kind of make you do this. Yeah. That makes me sound like a dictator. But I
I don't know why, like, you didn't think it was okay for you to go in the morning before the kids are there, or like for me to feed them by myself. I don't know. Like, it was, I remember
I felt
having,
bad.
yeah, I remember having a weird kind of probably visceral reaction to understanding when you were like, oh, but the kids need this. I'm like, yeah, and they have their dad, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, now, I mean, we have a shared calendar, but we like, I mean, you could go as many times as you want, but our pattern right now is like 3 days to 2 days usually.
Yeah.
And you know, I know not everybody is able to do this, but I protect my mornings before 9 or 9:30 from a meeting perspective when I can to be with the kids, whether Lauren's here or not. And that involves walking the dog and like making the breakfast and getting the kids up and everything. Like, whether she's here or not, obviously we want her here, but like there's no massive detriment to you not being around. Just like I hope there's not to me not being around when I'm working out and get back, you know, right before the kids are woken up or whatever. Boom.
Whoa, wow.
Commercial.
Yay! When I was postpartum, I kind of already hinted at this, but when I was postpartum, one of my favorite things to wear were my Lunia pajamas. And you've heard me talk a lot about their silk pajamas because they're luxurious, but you can still throw them in the washer. But they also have other fabrics, and specifically their cotton collection. There was a pant and an oversized shirt that I like. I was like, when is it clean? When can I wear it again? Because it was great. The silk is also a great option because, you know, it's luxurious and, you know, you probably have milk stains on the front of them, but they'll just wash right out, and there's just a good option to have, especially when you're trying to maintain your body temperature with the hormonal sweats and all of that stuff. If you're looking to get a gift for someone who just had a baby and you're like, they have everything, they don't need anything, and or you want to get a gift for the mom, get them a set of Lunia pajamas. You really can't go wrong with them, and you can use code BGMAD for 15% off your first order.
I like them. They're cute.
Yeah, they are cute. They're a cute pajama. Very much so. They also, I like their branding mentality too. They're formed around OTM, OTIUM, and it's a form of rest. And so that's kind of like how they made their business. There is just to making rest chic, if you will. And you're not going to feel chic postpartum if you're anything like me. And these kind of make you feel good. Change into a new set. Ugh, so good.
Get them. Go get them.
So number 3, I would say is a suggestion is just to welcome their new style. Like I said, they're a different person now. After baby, you're a different person. And I say that because like after the baby's like, first of all, I was like, none of my clothes fit. Like, they don't fit the same. They don't fit. And I didn't really wear or buy maternity clothes. And I was like, now is when I need the maternity clothes. Gosh dang it. Like, why don't I have them? And also, I just felt like I hated everything that I had. And I just wanted to try something new. And unfortunately, you can't just, well, maybe you can. I cannot just go out and buy a new wardrobe. But I like look at things and I'll like save things for later and I'll buy them slowly. And so I'm slowly kind of revamping my wardrobe. And I have a whole post on like dressing after baby, like not for other people, dressing for yourself, and like how I feel the best. And so I'll link that in the show notes too. But I would just say welcoming the new style, and like they may dress differently, that type of thing, you know, post birth, and just like welcome it with open arms because they're going through a change.
To clarify, this is not something we struggled with from a partner perspective, right?
No. Well,
I'm just making sure because the last few, that's what
we didn't really struggle with any of these, I guess, except for like we provided space to talk. There was like some issues in understanding, but we didn't struggle with any of these. These are recommendations.
I'm just like,
that I would just say.
I don't know where I am. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're just recommendations. And so that one's maybe a little bit more material, but I think like how I dress really affected how I felt. And if I could like dress up and feel good or not say dress up, but just wear something other than pajamas, even though I love a great pair of pajamas, wearing something that made me feel good just was a day, like a topper on the cake. Yeah. I wouldn't say day maker, but it just really helped. And like, if I didn't feel like in my body, so if I was having like an outer body experience, like who am I don't know, like at least I felt good in the clothing that I had on. Do you have any other like suggestions for people if they're trying to help or support, or did that really, those 3 cover it for you?
I think that you as the person supporting, if your expectation is that you're going to understand what's going on, get ready to fail. So like that, and that's probably me speaking to me a lot more than everybody else, but like I did want to understand. I still don't feel like I do. I think that I'm I've allowed a lot more space for things I don't get. And I don't just mean sympathetically, empathetically. I mean, like, I was either trying to fix the problem for you or understand it so that I could fix it. And usually what you needed was to be heard, not necessarily fully understood. Like, you never, said another way, you didn't usually get mad at me if I didn't get it. You got mad if I kept asking questions to try and get it, and you wanted to be heard, which now makes sense to me, but didn't then.
Yeah, because it felt like it was making it about you. I know what you were doing, but it felt like it was making it about you, and I'm like, I'm trying to make this about me right now. But yeah, it's all wires crossed, hormones, all that good stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, again, to flip it to the other person, the person recovering, like, if that is happening to you and somebody is trying to understand, just assume they're trying to understand to help you and care for you.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you are aware of that happening, you're aware that you're getting angry for that reason, communicate to your person, like, why that's making you frustrated. Be like, hey, like, I know this may not make sense to you right now. I don't really know how else to explain it. Can you listen?
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, that's also just, again, going back to the tiredness level. That's assuming that you're able to communicate and think logically
I know.
without
Yeah.
getting, like, sleep.
I know. That's why I said, like, if you're able to recognize that's happening, do it. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I told you on Instagram to send me things that you wish you had known postpartum, or any like questions that you had or tips. So I'm going to go through a couple of those. So the first one that I got, like I said, I get all the time, is like, when did you feel like yourself? And I kind of answered that at the beginning. I would say about around the 1.5 year mark is what my answer would be. Someone said, I wish I would have known that 6 weeks is an estimate and it's different for everyone. Yeah, the 6 week mark is an estimate. It's like literally the medical estimate. It doesn't take into account, like, for me, I had a C-section, so that's 8 weeks for me. And it is even longer for like working out. A lot of people get cleared to work out at that point. And I was fine from my OB perspective, but my physical therapist was like, no, I don't want you doing anything like super strenuous yet. You're not ready. Like, my stomach was still coning. And so, yeah, definitely just an estimate. And I would not even, like, I would just look at it as a medical checkpoint. Yeah. And like, you know, I just have to plug my OB in this little section, because a lot of people I see are like, ugh, my OB did do this or didn't do this. And like, I saw mine, I went in around 2 weeks to get the staples out of my incision. And then I saw her at 8 weeks. And then I saw her, I'm trying to do the math. I don't know how many weeks. They were born in October, and then I went in January to get a base level to check my hormones. So like, I saw her a lot, and I felt and she asked me about like mental health and things like that. So I felt very covered in that perspective. I know a lot of people aren't as lucky as I am. If you need an OB in West LA, I've got one for you.
Yeah. Send her a DM.
Yeah. I can put her information in the show notes. Her name's Dr. Mercy. And the next question I have is, how bad was the recovery period? To be honest, I don't really remember it. My suggestion would be, take the drugs if you need them, if you have them. I also have to say, like, my OB prescribed them for me. I know some people are like, yeah, they told me to take over-the-counter Tylenol. I think because I had a surgery is a little bit different, but I remember her coming in day like 3 or 4, and I was telling her that I had pain, and ended up I had some pooled blood because I had low platelets, and I didn't know it was there because I couldn't see past my stomach. But she was like, take the drugs. That's why I prescribed them. And that was like really hard for me to do for some reason. So that would be a recommendation that I have. Like, if you're feeling poorly, like, take the drugs. That's what they're there for.
And the other thing she said, you may not remember, it's not just pain management.
Yeah.
It actually helped in other aspects as well. Like, it was, it's to support your body's ability to recover. Yeah. It's not just pain. So it's like, if you're playing the confidence game of like, oh, I can handle this, or I don't actually need it, or whatever, like, they're prescribing it for different reasons than just the pain management.
And I just thought it wasn't that bad. The only pain I had was because I had this pooled blood, and it made it like kind of like hard and sharp pain. And I just thought, like, people had said like, oh, you know, post C-section, it kind of feels like a little fiery or like burning sensation. So I was like, okay, I guess this is it. I guess this is what everybody deals with. And that wasn't the case. So, yeah. There
was also some communication stuff there too between the staff. So like, I think, the people you have there supporting you, specifically your spouse, if they're there, pay attention to when the doctor says like, hey, I'm prescribing this and this, like, take the sheets, they'll give you sheets, take notes if you can, like, and try and make sure that those things are happening because I remember not getting the
Yeah.
drugs that you needed when I expected to receive them. And it's
Yeah.
not that we were asking and not receiving, it's that I could have followed up a little bit more, and the nurses knew, they just weren't doing it because we weren't asking, kind of thing. So just try and stay on top of your spouse's recovery plan on their behalf a little bit.
And I think like they alternated drugs on me like in like every 12 hours. They would do like a harder one and then a lesser hard one. And then I had some different ones what I took home. But take him in the hospital, take him at home. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Another thing that I remember being really helpful in the recovery period for me is just like food prep, making things. Like we don't live by any of our family. And so some people like made us meals or, sent us meals or sent us a gift card. And to this day, that is something that I always try to do when someone has like a baby. I'm like, can I send you a meal? Can I send you a gift card? Like, what can I do? Because that's just something super easy and makes people feel like loved, and it's an immediate need that they have. And so for me, like I did have that, but I also like prepped things like I actually have in blog posts that I can share, what I made. So like I had a couple lasagnas and enchiladas, but my favorite thing that I prepped was I made mini muffins and I froze them, and I could just pop them in the toaster, and like I would eat those like in the middle of the night breastfeeding or like in the morning and stuff like that. And that was my favorite thing to do.
When you're doing that, I think this sounds forceful, not giving the person recovering the opportunity to say no is a little easier. So like, for example, I've done this when people are feeling sick or, whatever else. Like if you say like, hey, Lauren and I have decided to send you dinner, send me to your restaurant and your order, and we're going to get it to you.
Yeah. And if they don't answer, you just send them a DoorDash gift card or whatever it is.
Right. So like, and I'm not saying like throw it down their throat or anything. It's just like, if you give them the opportunity to say no, and you did this a little bit too, like, falling into like, oh, I'm okay, I don't actually need it.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you might be right, but people are trying to help you. You need to accept the help.
Yeah.
And
as far as like physically, I bled for about 5 weeks. That's really all I can remember. And as far as like the recovery, I just took it slow. I have stairs, so I had to do that. But I don't remember it being that bad. I had Nick.
I think you would say that it was not as bad as you expected it to be.
Sure. I don't know that I really like that immediate. I'll talk about another thing a little bit later, but like that immediate, like truthful medicinal, like postpartum time, I don't remember it being that bad, but I had Nick. So that made it a little bit different, but I do say that I remember being like, I'm like, I don't know where this came from. Had to come from Jesus, because I just remember being like the things that I think I've said this before on here, but the used car like balloons where they're like, I'm gonna come away from the mic, but like the balloons that like go down and they're back up and they're down and they're back up. That's why I was like, I don't know how I'm able to do this right now.
Those balloons have moves. It's crazy.
They do. The next thing was a statement of like remembering that your body might look different, but it doesn't mean it's bad. Look at your body as a gift. It serves a strong role. And that's great. I would say that'd be really hard for me 6 weeks postpartum or in that time to like really see, or maybe I could at that point, but like after the 6 weeks when like you're theoretically supposed to be feeling yourself, that's still like hard for me to see. Like I know like my twins like went to full term and all that stuff, but like I remember one of my doctors, and at like 30, maybe 35 weeks, 36 weeks, they were like, this was not my OB who I love, by the way. They were like, oh man, if you're going to keep going, you're going to have major skin problems for the rest of your life. And I just remember being like, I sobbed all the way home. I was so upset, like, because
I remember that.
Because like, I'm like, why would you say that to me? Like, I'm already like not self-conscious, and I wasn't really thinking about like the postpartum body, but I was just like, yeah, that's great that I'm able to carry them full term, and they ended up not having NICU time and all that. But I don't really have stretch marks. I have just like the skin stretch, I would say, and the C-section bulge. But I'm working on it mentally and physically, and that was just hard. It's good to look at and read it, but even now I'd probably say it's hard for me to mentally accept that.
So this is part of one of the things I realized as a supporting role partner is that you're not able... This is my outside perception. Mm-hmm. You're not able to just try and love yourself if you don't feel like yourself. Mm. So that's one of the things it was hard to understand and to see in you. Because like to me, it was like, okay, the person closest to you, me, is is attracted to you, does think you're beautiful, is giving you, affirmation in a ton of different ways, that's not helping. We're surrounded by a ton of body positive, amazing women and other people who aren't women that are like very encouraging in general, not just of you specifically, but like the message of love yourself and like self-love and love the way your body is all over us, especially in the city and in our friend group. They're very good at that. So that was part of the reason it didn't make sense to me that you, like, to me, you had the most positive environment and the most encouraging environment for you to be able to accept your own situation and your body. But you were fighting a different battle. You were fighting the battle of, I don't feel like me. I feel like I'm in a different body.
Yeah.
That's just something I remember realizing.
That was really good. What you said, you're not able to love yourself if you don't feel like yourself. That's what you said, right? Oh, that's good, Nick. Snaps for you. Yeah.
Some of the conversations that you're referencing with our closer friends, they were around that specifically.
Yeah. Okay, the next one was how much hormones affect everything and how emotional it was. Yeah. Hear that. I am very much a proponent of knowing your hormones, getting them checked, making sure that
Ask
they're
their
good.
names, see what their hobbies are.
Yeah, favorite color, all of that. But I was like that, like pre-pregnancy, even before we tried, just because like I felt something was off. That's how I found my OB. I was like, hormone doctor LA, and that's how she came up. Because like I knew something was weird. I was on hormonal birth control for almost 10 years. I got off and I tried to balance my cycle myself, couldn't. And then the final straw was like one cycle. I had like a 2-week cycle. So like I had my period, and then I guess I was like, let's say it was 7 days. So like 7 days later of not having my period, I had another period. And I'm like, okay, I need to go to the doctor. Not great. And so hormones just affect everything. They affect how you feel and all of that. And so I was very on top of it about getting my hormones checked. So I did get my hormones checked that January after they were born, but that was just for a baseline to see where I was, because when you're breastfeeding, your hormones are not acting, quote, normally. It actually would appear like you're in menopause. So we tested again, I think about 3-ish months after I had stopped breastfeeding, and then we tested again recently, and I'm gonna go again like in this summer to look at it just to kind of see how they are, because I'm still trying to figure that out. But your hormones affect how you feel, they affect your emotions, they affect you physically. Very important, would recommend. And yes, the most emotional part I feel like was the day that my milk came in. My milk came in a week after they were born. So they were born full term for twins, 38 weeks and 1 day, but my body never went into labor or anything like that. And so my milk didn't come in until after we left the hospital. So it was a week after they came in and after the twins were born. And so that was a very, very emotional day. And I've had friends who be like, yeah, the day my milk came in, wow.
Yeah. I mean, every time I grab it from Ralph's or Whole Foods, I'm really excited when it comes home,
Yeah, it must be so easy.
I would also say that your advice would extend past postpartum, before and after. So like you going to your point, you found your OB by searching for a hormone doctor, and we were able to have like a better understanding of where your hormones were in general, like launch into some kid discussions from that. Like there were a lot of positive things that came out of it, and it was before postpartum, before pregnancy, and before postpartum.
Yeah.
So it's always good. My point is, it's always good to understand those things.
Yeah, it can be kind of scary, but knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one was a comment. It said that fat is necessary. I switched from vegetable oil to ghee and beef tallow, and I got a lot of energy and I lost weight. I'd agree with this too. I am very much pure ingredient. So yeah, I'm for butter. If you want to get rid of the milk fats and do the ghee, that's great. But I'm for butter. If you're going to use sugar, I'm for real sugar. If you want to do coconut sugar, that's fine. But the fake stuff, like, I know I'm like different from every other girl in the sense like, please don't give me a Diet Coke. That's going to make me throw up. Like, give me the pure sugar. If I'm going to eat it, if I'm going to drink it, I want the real sugar, real deal. I do like Smart Sweets. That's technically not like the real sugar has less sugar.
You're pretty smart, so any sweet you eat is a smart sweet.
Thanks, babe. But yeah, I would definitely go pure ingredient, especially if you're nursing or whatever, you need those ingredients. This one I very much relate with. It said, I was prepared for labor, but not postpartum. I wish I would have known how like needy I was going to be. They said to take ibuprofen and make padsicles. I didn't have a vaginal birth, so I didn't do padsicles. Nick asked when we were going over this outline, he was like, what's a padsicle? I'm like, you make like it's essentially a popsicle, but you put your pad right in the freezer so it's cold down there. Anyway, I didn't do that.
Thank you for saying that. I asked about that.
Yeah, I'm just, educating, knowledge is power. But I definitely would agree with that. And I would take it past like the medical postpartum. So some things for me personally that still affect me, back pain. I had back pain starting in May after, so that was 3 months after I stopped breastfeeding, which is a marker for me. But I had really bad back pain. I still have that lower back pain that is a problem. Numbness, I would wake up in the morning and my hands would be numb. And so I also like had a lot of carpal tunnel and mommy thumb and wrist pain, and that's Nick pouring wine. We're not peeing on air. No, I don't want any more wine. Thank you.
Nobody thought about that until you said it.
We're just talking about bleeding and pad sickles, so I was just going with it.
Yeah.
So mommy thumb and wrist pain, like it was so bad till I was probably like 7 or 8.
That was really bad for you.
7 or 8 months postpartum. I would just do something with my wrist and tweak it the slightest bit, like turning on a shower head or picking up the kids. I would have to like scoop them in my hands and like try not to use my thumb. Oh man, that was so bad.
So I never thought that this was silly, by the way, but it like, no, I'm not insulting you. Just go with me. This was one of my markers of like, I have no freaking idea what's going on. Because like, you are not weak. You're strong, physically. Like, and it was like, I know this is because of what's going on with her body. And it, like, there's no way I'm going to get this. Because like, you don't have like super tiny weak wrists or anything. Like you're able to pick things up. Like you're very active. Like it did
so bad.
It made no computational sense in my mind at all. And like every time you said it, I believed you. I'm just saying this was one of the points of like, I don't understand what's happening here.
Yeah, I still sometimes wake up with numbness. I need to wear my wristband, my really cute, sexy wristbands to sleep in because that does help.
I might try and lose those. I don't think you need those. Those aren't important for anything really.
But that helps with the numbness.
They would look great in the recycle bin outside, I think.
Another thing was this, I kind of already said it, was just my clothes fitting. Like I said, I didn't really wear maternity clothes. I dropped like most of the weight that I had gained during pregnancy. I dropped that immediately after they were born, like in the first 2 weeks, and then it just kind of like crept back up, and I still haven't. I think I'm probably like 10 to 15 pounds over like my pre-pregnancy
said the
weight.
Beautiful girl.
What'd you say?
I said the beautiful girl.
It has not. So here's the thing. I don't care about the weight. It's how I feel. But I'm just like aware.
I still have to tell you.
I mean, thank you. My OB like does give me the option of like, do you want to be weighed today? So I do have that option, but I always like kind of know where I'm at. And I felt, I didn't like having another thing of UC like diagnosed, but I did feel like starting like in that May, after like 3 months after breastfeeding, I did starting to feel like inflamed, and I thought it was all in my head because I was like the symptoms that I had before of UC were not there. But also my eyesight got better. Like that's something that happens with pregnancy often.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because when I went the first few months afterwards, I was still nursing, and he was like, I don't want to change your contacts or whatever until you stop, because it will sometimes change in pregnancy and might go back, might get worse. But that was something. Also, like my knots in my stomach, like I said, my PT would kind of work on these. I still have one in my stomach that hurts. I was pretty good about like massaging my scar and being aware of that. So I had that, but like the knots in my stomach, I really wasn't prepared for. And then another thing is like when I stopped breastfeeding, I didn't realize like how like nauseous I would be and like headaches I got. I just had never heard of that. And so I feel like this isn't talked about. Like what? And then another thing that's just kind of random is that like I noticed I got more red dots, like they're called like blood dots, or like the petechiae or something. They're just like red dots. My dad gets them and I have a couple on me, but I just got them like pretty, like several all over my stomach. I told you the other day and you're like, oh, those are your love dots.
Yep, that's out there now.
And then the other thing is like I didn't realize that I would just bloat so badly, and I think again that's with regarding the UC, but also because of the C-section you do bloat more, and also you show more bloat at night, which whatever, but that's the case.
Yeah. And
then a tip, just to kind of end on like a good thing that I 100% would do again, is like if you need to go to the bathroom after birth, specifically a C-section, when they pull your catheter out, I was fine passing gas. I was fine. I did have to get a suppository to finally go to the bathroom. But the problem for me was to go number one. I couldn't go number one. And like the nurses are outside my door like, oh, did you go yet? Like I'm like, well, I can't go now with you looking at me. And finally, the next shift of nurses had come in, and a lady, she brought me, bless her soul, brought me a cup with water and a straw and told me to blow and make bubbles. miracle worker. And you don't have to have like the straw or whatever to do it. You can just like do the and that's the same motion and it works. So if you're having trouble just like blow out air, you got it. You got a girlfriend.
Good positive note to end on.
Yeah, I also, do you have anything you want to say on that?
On that?
Well,
no.
That you, no, in this section, do you have anything?
I agree. That's what I have to say about that. Great
I'm just
advice.
making sure. No, the
you
whole
mean
section.
on the whole section?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I have much. I think like as the supporting partner, a lot of this is not going to make sense. Not the podcast. I mean, like a lot of the recovery journey is not going to make sense. Like I think our most positive mindset there is like, we're here to help. We're not here to understand and fix. We're here to help. And helping doesn't always mean fixing. So like, you know, if they need you to bring bottles or bring things to them, like that's easy things to do. But if, you know, a lot of times you need to be there and listen and make space for them to talk. And if they need to talk, let them talk. Like just like try and listen. And you're not going to understand. You're not going to be able to fix everything.
Yeah.
Be there.
Yeah. Thanks for being there.
You're welcome. I was there.
Mm-hmm. And then 2 other things I want to talk about before we end are just like, I found 2 of the TikTok accounts that I really liked regarding parenting. One is CM Stabile or Stable. I'm not sure how she says her last name, but her name's Christina and she does a lot of like parenting. She has a podcast as well and I like her account. And then Dr. Chelsea Parenting I like, and she gives like really good scenarios and tips as well. So I'll put those in the show notes just if you want a good resource.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Let us know if you have any questions, any comments on this that we missed, if you had tips or whatever that you thought were essential, or if you have something that helped someone understand. We'd love to know.
If you're recovering or you're supporting somebody who's recovering, there's a light at the end of the tunnel always. Search for it.
Yeah. All right.
Cheers.
Well, cheers. If you liked this episode and you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you choose to listen to podcasts, because we are there, then
maybe Napster. Who knows?
Give us a rating. And if it's a good rating, if it's a bad rating, please keep it to yourself.
MySpace Music, maybe, you think?
Oh, yeah, maybe. I never had a MySpace.
Zanga?
Oh, I didn't have a Zanga either. But
You were cool.
No, I wasn't allowed. I had a Facebook, though. Anyway, thank y'all for listening. Thanks for growing with us.
Bye.
Bye.
Boy, girl, mom died. Gotta wash those butts together. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.